What is up? It is AFALOZ, and this is the reading of the book of Andakah, Parable 1, Pass, Part 7. And it's about 7. It's the main character. So let's start reading. Well, you may be wondering what's going on. The ritual is not as intense as your father has made it to be. Before you ask any questions, let me tell you what I've done and what I'm supposed to do next. First, I gave away my serodical key, serodical key thala, and once I had access, I was given this juice that you have been seeing me drink. I'm supposed to drink this for the next 3 months, and then I will get my next task, Mother said. She stood up and walked around the room, staring to each child's eyes, seeing the horror, their eyes tightening, seeing the horror, their jaws tightening or on the floor. She let out a smug look and walked in the bar. Tell them, Nebi, she whispered. I did it. They have my key. If that is not loyalty to the family, Seven, why didn't you show me what is? Nabar said as he looked at Seven with the same smile as their father and the same smile her mother was sporting as well. Aaron and Juniper chimed in. That's a tall ask, brother. How do we know what they're doing? What if they install something? A backdoor access? Who are these members? Why should we trust them? They repeated, their voice playing off each other as they sing their way through. I'm in, Thor said as he raised his hand, Sakura and O behind him putting his hand down. Mom, you can't be serious. Who are these people? Who's going to have access? And our kids lose their access? Sakura fumed, her normal demeanor not being displayed as she lets the words fly in an octave far higher than what anyone was used to. Like, seriously, Mother. What the fuck is going on? Who cares about the money? But to not be a founder in a new fucking planet is insane. They expect us to not have a seat in the house? We work like them. While you sit wherever watching your family, just live like the rest of them? Sakura finished as she began breathing heavy and heavier. Obe stepped in to sit her sister down. When do we need to decide by? Seven asked coldly, her voice hushed, defiant, and echoed amongst the noise as a piercing conduit through the veil. Now, Mr. Gao and Miss Naraya, can you please get the pearls ready? As you may know, I have already accepted Father's proposal and had a similar experience as Mother. I gave them a key and I've been drinking this. I know you all have a lot of questions about me quitting, but this is more important. This is family matters. We have always been through everything together and it has always made us stronger. Like Sakura eloquently stated, we can't just allow our family to fail, to become like them, to suffer while the few of us reap in front of them. But let us not forget that we have been sowing. We have been tilling, tending to the garden that is us. We are only as strong as our bravest and most loyal member. So today I ask you to not have faith in the corporation, but have faith in our family, that our family will be the one to be at the right spot. Nabar stretched his arms out after his speech. The room was silent. He looked like he wanted a hug. A moment came. A hand. First it was Thor, then the twins. Sakura placed her head down. She sobbed as she raised her hand up and Obe looked around. She seemed scared until she made eye contact with Seven. She was fiercely staring at them. At them all. She had already walked over to the lawyers. Seven, don't turn it down. We're family, Obe said as tears fell down her face. She raised her hand, using her other hand to cover her mouth. Which one of you fuck is off one? Seven breathed. Naraya handed her pearl and destroyed the rest of it by eating, then Gao ate Seven's yes pearl. The chattering stopped and Obe stammered, Wait. Why did you already destroy them? Agatha spoke in a new and foreign tone. It is complete. May you all succeed with your seed. Align Invocar. She stood up and walked towards the door, and Gao and Naraya giving each person their pearl and following Agatha. What the hell, Seven? Everyone collectively yelled. They all began asking various questions and concerns and different opinions and thoughts. Shut up. Dad's dead. I'm an arbiter. I control a fourth of our company. I have some of the most well-earned secrets in my brain that could destroy those singing fucks. And you all believe I would just let some fuckstick from the other family shit even our own family get in here? You'd have to rip my fucking skull off and eat my brain because you aren't getting shit out of here, Seven said as she walked towards the elevator. She turned around and looked at all of them and laughed. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I can do this as well. She took one more step and her foot began to disappear, following her legs, arms until she was all gone, disappeared from the room. Seven arrived in her lab underneath her castle and she began to collect everything. Zaire, Disintegrate everything and get me my bag and put everything in it. Make sure to get me that bag I came home with earlier. Also, leave one spot to sciograph the castle. Go upload to Zone 6 and meet me in Room 7. She finished her command and the room began to slowly evaporate. The system eating each molecule and storing the information in its database to recreate, along with all information tied down to its quantum form. Her shell created a deep rainbow pearl, messages from her family interlinking, waiting to be visited and observed. She ignored them and walked around, searching for the experiment she wanted to keep alive and transferred, her bag hitting its capacity. She knew she had to eliminate some of her pet projects. Zaire, how do I hide some of these? Should I just burn them? Would phasing them into the nearest volcano work? How much energy does that burn? Where are my reserves at? 7 rattled questions after questions to her system. It answered all of them, and she began exterminating the animal-atom hybrids that she didn't feel like would survive the phasing. A gamble, but a gamble she was willing to bet would be in her favor, as her science proves it, so it shall be. She eradicated the pig weasel fruitfoot version 3.03, a version of Fruitco's latest atom software. The framework was spectacular, but Seven felt that there was a better use for the Fruit V303 on a more robust hybrid, as it didn't adequately combine in the phasing slicing, giving it a weak spine and nerve system, not being able to handle the shock without the help of the... I didn't write anything. She ripped its SKT film from the top of its skull with her bare hands and saved it before she incinerated the remains. It turned to ash, and finally Seven faced SKT's the Cerebrocal key thalama that I said. It turned to ash, and finally Seven phased it into the lab for cleanup by the nanites in hopes of preserving the data encoded in the hybrid. The ones Seven preferred, or she believed to have the highest chance of survival, were put in a very specific cage that Seven developed in her lab for storage. She was able to put objects in her quantum realm and store it in the locality she accessed it. Oh my God, that doesn't make any sense. There's so much editing I gotta do for this one. The place that she was standing in, the moment, with her awakened state, she was able to move the locality of the access point, but the moments in quantum space was harsh. It produced a film, almost like a petrification of the skin. The objects would become rocks. Seven looked into each molecule of the petrified ashen rocks, unusable, viability whatsoever. She created an oddly clever device that allowed for continued vibration, slowing the crawl of whatever coats the objects in the quantum realm. Seven was going about her cleanup. She saw a mirror. She realized she had a small amount of dust on her forehead. She rubbed and rubbed, but it wouldn't come off. Her stomach dropped as she had a hunch, but it was more than likely what it was. It's been years of usage, but only this small amount has petrified, she thought. Seven often tried to see the sun above the rain, even when the pain was unbearable. What the mirror showed, the mark, none of it mattered. She let a tear drop and continued on putting the hybrids into their cages. She finished up and phased into her new lab. The lab was deep in a country called Cantor, one of 2 of the last nations on planet Earth. The nations of the old European countries and Asian countries combined, along with the African nations, to form a new continent. Now in a deep war with the newly developed nation of Imikar, Seven picked a remote location in the middle of Cantor, between mountains and giant trees. She found a lake, which I think that's also false. We'll update that later. Between mountains and giant trees, she found a lake which at the bottom held a cave that held the hotspot for her connection to the quantum realm. The location was unfortunate, but it was the best the system could do that kept her out the eyes of Invocar. Who would not appreciate her experiments and forward-thinking mentality. Seven phased her nanites, and they immediately started producing her home, the style of the medieval castle she saw from the archives of past histories and the nations who ruled them. She decided to combine that with lush overgrowth. She was fond of plants and their smells. She thought it, and the system developed it around her, incorporating it into the landscape. With the quantum hotspot, Seven decided to open a portal that allowed the sun to pass through. It illuminated the cave and made the lake shimmer. She made more trees and opened portals that allowed her nanites to phase in and out. The nanites, after being granted the ability, took all of her experiments and phased in and out of the current existence. Seven gave the system instructions. She shouted loudly, "Don't move the dead ones. I'll handle them when I get back." She phased out and arrived in her office, where she changed into her arbiter attire, a uniform designed by the fourth family out of the, I think it's supposed to be 12, I said 9, that still exists in Invocar. It looked to incorporate all 9 families and their colors and insignias. Seven just thought it looked cluttered. She got a specific one made for her, all gray and black besides the insignia of their house. The first, a giant snake eating a world tree on an island with a sword and an axe behind it. Parallel, the sun plastered in the back. It was in shades of yellow orchid, as she had it cover her belly button, and it was on her cape that all arbiters wore. She got her adorned in the center of her back as the cape floated behind her. Okay. Oh, all right. I think that's pretty good. That was a lot harder to read just because it didn't flow as nice. Which is like okay, because it gets like my general idea. My stomach hurts because I've been talking too much. I think I need to drink some water too. But I think it gets like the general idea conveyed. We're gonna get to the part where she's like about to like do a portion of her job, which is gonna be the main part of like Parable 2. Is a lot of like introduction to like what their day-to-day is, and then hopefully Parable 3 is where they introduce the driving force for change, which, you know, we're following the Dan Hammond or whatever story circle and the hero's journey, so we're trying to get it as close as possible to those. But it gets you kind of like from here on anyway. So like 7, you kind of get like a general idea of where her life is right now, like what she's been doing, and or not at least like a backstory of like who her family is and kind of like the main people in her family. Like it's still kind of like obtuse and abstract, and now after this part, when I go to like part 8, that's when we're gonna start going over like her job. So at the end of this part that I just read, you kind of get like an idea that, you know, Seven's doing something in secret. She's experimenting on things. You know, she's a scientist, and she's like a linchpin of this family. And now she's kind of going against, you know, what the family wants her to do and what everyone else in her family is doing. But now we're gonna get to her like her general duties as like an arbiter and what like that kind of entails. But then after that, because this is getting near to where, you know, her story ends. Like, oh wait, yeah, we're getting near to like where 7's story ends, which is nice because I haven't been able to read in the present yet. And once, you know, 7's story, once it like ends, then we get to Zarash, which is the present, which I is going to be to me like the most interesting, just because that's where a lot, like there's already like a lot of like terms that I'm adding in the past, but the present is like where I'm trying to add even more, but then kind of like extrapolate and like, oh my god, my stomach, and kind of like be more descriptive, you know, be more descriptive and kind of like slow it down. But then from there we're gonna get to like weird states, like if it's not weird already, we're gonna get to like weird states of the future, and that one is like erratic. And then the quantum, the quantum, I don't really know the I call it quantum, but it's like quantum / spirit, and it's also kind of like akin to the future, but it's like a solidified hidden state. But all these 4 characters that I'm going to be reading about and introducing, they're all gonna be, closely related, and they're all gonna tie into each other at some point. It's gonna be a very long journey, and you know, everyone kind of has like good ideas, but it's like always about like the execution, right? So we're trying to take this slow, and get like a good feel and understanding of these characters and like grow with them. I'm really inspired by like Oda. I'm really inspired by Oda, by Tagashi, and the way that they slowly incorporate and up the stakes, but also have like differing adventures. I like that episodic nature of those stories, and I'm also like super intrigued by like Kurt Vonnegut and by Tolkien, and the way that they have their stories laid out, and how like Kurt Vonnegut's stories are they're so sporadic, but they eventually circle back, and then Tolkien's stories are so procedural, and they remind me a lot of like anime, but it's so expansive, you know. So I want to like incorporate some of that randomness that Vonnegut has, where it's like broken. I forget what that type of story is called, but I like that broken nature, and then I want to like incorporate that into Tolkien's like grand, very developed world. Like I'm clearly making my own world here, but then I also wanted to have a visual piece. So I think that like Tolkien and Oda and Togashi all like Hunter x Hunter, it's a crazy expansive world. One Piece is a crazy expansive world. Lord of the Rings is a crazy expansive world. So I like those, but then I like the personal / kind of like very, very intimate stories of Kurt Vonnegut, and the way that he like handles those intimate those people, like how close you get to those people and their stories. I like that, and it's hard. I feel like it's hard to do that with such an expansive story, with with all these different characters that you have in Hunter x Hunter, all these different characters that you have with One Piece, all these different characters, like main characters that you have in Lord of the Rings. But eventually, through over time, my toes over time, you still get that, but it takes like a while to get to that personal view, to get to that intimate level of understanding of these characters. You have to really like go through the journey with them, and I know that probably like doesn't. It's like, yeah, dude, you're just saying that you like all these people, but I want to be able to like have all of that in my story as well. And right now, like I've tried so hard to like plot and to isolate them and to like make them into their one story, and to like have phases of like, okay, this is this is like arc 1 where like this main character is going to be there, but it just didn't make sense for like what I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about is like something that's like happening in unison, like all these things are all happening. I know I have past, present, future, and like quantum, but these are all happening at the same time, because there's really only one timeline, right? These are all just happening in different kind of dimensions of the same timeline. But I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm trying to figure out how to get like an intimate feeling on an expansive world Like I can read all of these things that they produce, but it doesn't mean like I understand how they did it. So I'm doing it like my own way of like what I think is going to help me get to that stage. But it's been hard. Writing is not easy. I also mentioned Togashi and Oda, and because I want to have a visual piece on this eventually. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to like, once I kind of have like a good spot, I'm like, yeah, this is like, this is pretty good. I probably won't edit this for a while. I probably won't do like a second round of editing, third round of editing for a while. And once I have like a few parables under my belt, by that I mean like probably like 10 or more, I'm going to go back as I edit, as I do like a bigger, longer edit or whatever. I want to go back and I want to draw as bad, like how the dude that made One Punch Man, how he like draws stuff. Like he's getting better, of course, but like how he started, like I want to do that same thing, but then instead of like waiting for a studio to like pick me up or hope that I get that lucky, I'm just gonna use AI. Hopefully by then, it'll be a few years from now, AI is good enough to where I can just like submit my drawing of like, this is what this scene looks like as I draw it, and this is like what I picked, this is how the characters I drew, this is like blah blah blah. But then be able to give it where that like section of paragraph of the story comes from, and give it the my drawings, and then have profiles for like each character, and then it'll be able to just like create it for me, and like I'll edit it or whatever, and fix it up, but then have like like my version, the version that I draw, and then the AI version, so you'll be able to like read it as an ongoing manga. So that's like my future plan for this. So here's hoping. Right now, I tried it out. I don't think it's like there yet. I wanted to like start posting my stories, but I also didn't want my original writing for those specifically, just because they're gonna go. I'm gonna use a lot of those in here. Like I'm gonna eventually use some of that stuff that I wrote, and it's all gonna bleed through. But I filtered through AI and made like AI like change it up, because AI always like friggin' messes with it and like does whatever it wants right now. So I posted those. I started posting those like a while ago, like last year, just because I wanted something out on the website, just so you get like a general idea of like where these stories are going, and like know that at some point we're gonna be like an AI forward company. Just because it's going to be the most cost efficient way to do this. I'm not going to have enough money to have a studio and I hire like writers. Maybe one day, maybe one day I will, but not right now. But then even those people are going to be like AI forward, and they're going to be doing things to AI, and they're just going to be like editing, make sure there's not like 8 fingers or whatever, or like make sure that consistency. But until I have enough money to do that, I'm just going to be doing what I'm doing now. So that's what I wanted. That's why I started doing that stuff that's why I started posting AI like that. I wanted to, showcase that eventually we will start using AI. Not in the writing, just because it hasn't gone to the point where it's like able to edit how I want it. And maybe it is, I just don't know it, right? Like I don't have the skill and ability to know if what it's editing and what it's like doing is what I want it to be. Eventually I will, maybe in like the next 10, 15 years of like writing consistently, I'll be able to distinguish like, okay, this is like a good edit. Like, oh, okay, this is a bad edit, like I'll be able to see that. But right now I can't. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do that. But the main point of using AI is going definitely to just be on the visual aspects, to do manga, then eventually to do animation, to have like an anime. So this is all going to be free. Right now it's not cost efficient, like even to utilize it, it's not cost efficient. It's not cost efficient to use it, because it's using up too much resource. But eventually it will be cost efficient, It's just like the way that the world works. It's going to be cost efficient to utilize AI over anything else. So, like power wise. But until then, I don't think like that's very far in the future. Maybe like I said, like maybe 10 years. But until then, we're just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. And yeah, I got a lot of plans. I got a lot of plans. I hope like I'm able to not only do these things, but like to fund these things. That probably sounded the same, but I want to be able to, be able to like give back to kind of combat some of these things that aren't free. Like even One Piece, even One Piece isn't free. Of course, you can go through like the scans, the free scans website, but that's still like pirating. Like even though you can like watch some animation for like do you really want to pay $15 a month to go watch the most recent season of One Piece, or not One Piece, of like One Punch Man? Like how bad that is. If that's like what we're paying for, then why not just have that for free? But everyone wants to make money. No one really wants to like give back, or at least not give back for free, which I understand. Like you worked hard for it, and you deserve funds and recognition. But at a certain point, I feel like the world is just so overburdening, man. Like there's he's eating a pacifier. This guy, dude, ew. It just feels like the world is like so overburdening that at some point we gotta figure out a way to give back. And this is my way. This is my way of combating it. So stick around. Stick around, and you'll see, that one day, I think, as the world gets more expensive and as technology gets better, people, the younger generations, people that are my generation, they're going, and the ones that are like able to do this type of stuff, they're gonna want to do the same thing. They're gonna want to produce on their own website where they don't have to run ads, like YouTube. Like I post this stuff on YouTube, but at the same time you still have to watch 15 ads to watch some of these, and that kind of defeats the purpose, right? So eventually people that have the means, I think that we're gonna go towards creators that have the means to do what I'm doing and to kind of have the same vision, because this is not an original thought. I'm sure that someone else out there is thinking exactly what I'm thinking right now. And they're going to, create their own world. They're going to create their own vision, and it's all going to be free. And people are going to want to like donate so they can like get more free stuff. Right now, I think like streaming, like Twitch, YouTube streamers, it's nice that they're giving back, but their type of content is really devolved to kind of just gossip, and it's not really them. Some of it is entertainment, but most of the entertainment seems to just be human at the cost of someone else. And I think there's so many people that have so many stories that are good stories that are gonna come out of this, and I'm just hoping to be one of the first to do this type of shit, and just have a head start. That's what I'm saying. Right now we have no fans, but if you're watching this and you watched this far, thank you for being a fan. Thank you for taking the time to read this, because that is the cost, right? The cost isn't money. The cost that you're giving me is time, and I appreciate that so much. So thank you. And I hope that I provided some value to you, and that I made your day better. And if I did, just share it. Let other people see. Because my metric, if you're probably wondering, like, oh yeah, all this free shit, how are you gonna get money? The way that I want to make money is I want to make money from corporations. I want to make money from rich people. They want to buy my art. That's why the art that I'm using is the front of this, is like the thumbnail for these things. and it's going to be the thumbnail moving forward for all the parables. Because eventually, I want to sell that piece once I'm done with it, and it's going to be tied down to, the first 10 parables or whatever. Or it's going to be tied down to the first 20 parables. There's going to be out there people that are wealthy, they're going to want to collect this stuff, and I want them to give me money so I can continue providing free shit for you guys. Because, like I said, I'm not trying to get money from people that are already struggling. I want to provide entertainment and free things for those people, and I want to take money from people that are well off, that want to support me, and want to support what I'm doing and support my movement and like what I want to do, and this like free nature that I'm trying to provide. But this has been a long rant. I don't think I'm gonna read again until later. I might try to type a little bit, do like 1,000, 2,000 words, but I'll talk to you guys later.